Today we're trying to get a RAMMSTEIN tone out of the NUX Mg-30. Ich will, dass ihr mir vertraut. One of you beautiful ladies asked me to do a RAMMSTEIN guitar tone, or at least to try to do that. And although I'm not the biggest RAMMSTEIN expert, of course I thought it was maybe a nice idea, a nice challenge for me. And so I dialed in a guitar tone, which sounds somehow like RAMMSTEIN to me. And let me show you what I did. So I opened up the editor here, and there are a couple of things about the RAMMSTEIN guitar tone. First of all, it's a very saturated guitar tone. That means you need maybe different distortion stages, and if you want to have saturated guitar tones, the more is more. So you cannot get that with one distortion stage. Maybe you need a boost pedal, or maybe even two boost pedals. Anyway, I started with the guitar. I was choosing my Schecter Banshee in this color because I'm wearing a red shirt, so I couldn't choose a red guitar, but I chose this guitar because it has EMGs. And as far as I know, maybe RAMMSTEIN used EMGs. Of course, RAMMSTEIN's guitar tone is also varying over the albums and also live. From what I know is that maybe famous guitar tone, or the guitar tone which made them famous, which you could hear, or maybe Engel or Du Hast, something. It's always two guitars, panned strictly left and right. One is a dual rectifier and another is maybe a Sans amp. And the Sans amp is a very, it's a very saturated guitar tone. The rectifier is boosted and it's also saturated, but yeah, those two together create this guitar tone. Anyway, I tried to create a kind of that guitar tone with, of course, only one guitar and one amp in the NUX, as you cannot choose dual amping here. And I was choosing the dual rectifier for that. And another thing is, of course, I will show you. So this is the patch here. So let's start with the boost pedal. I was playing around with some of these boost pedals and I ended up with this settings, Tube Screamer. And the thing is, their tone sounds really tight, really scooped of course, but we'll come to that in a second, but really tight. And if you crank the drive here, of course you get more distortion, but you have a little bit flubbiness, which comes from the pedal. I don't know if you can hear it, if you translate. So I decided to dial back the drive here. And I played around with the level. Of course, that depends on the output of this guitar. And also with the tone. Of course, you could dial it back a little bit. But I was checking the song on my studio monitors. There are songs on my studio monitors, and I found out that it has lots of high ends. Around the 4K, I would say. So I ended up with these settings here. Then very important is also the gate, because if you use that much gain, if you don't use the gate, you always have this annoying background noise. And also if you're playing riffs, sorry, I cannot play many riffs, I'm always repeating this, and also of course this guitar is not tuned to D, I think, or even to C. I don't know which tuning they use, so I'm playing it in E. Yeah, but you need the noise gate, of course, and also you have to set it very drastically. So here with this sense, you can check out, for example, you can see here it's cutting off the note. That's maybe too much. And And so I ended up with this settings, and also with the decay, very short, so that after you play the note, it's immediately quiet. Of course, that's not the best setting, or not a setting which I would use for leads, because notes are cut off. But yeah, you know, maybe RAMMSTEIN, they don't play that much lead guitars, and also for leads, maybe they wouldn't use this gate setting. So this gate works very nice, and it's the only gate here in this unit. So yeah, I had to choose this. It works. Next thing, I'm using the dual rectifier, which was requested by you, and also which would have been the amp which I used maybe. The thing with the dual rectifier is, in reality, it has a very scooped tone. When you boost it with a mid-focus pedal, then it's not that scooped, but it has huge amounts of low end and high end sizzle. Also this model here. But that was not enough for me to get close at least to the studio sound of RAMMSTEIN. So I choose these settings. Be careful with the gain here. If you go much higher than, it starts to flub or to distort somehow in an unwanted way. There's some clipping happening, I think. So that is also still an issue in this unit. You have to be careful with the gain. But it has shitloads of gain. So yeah, I tried to create this scoop tone which they have. And I ended up with these settings and with an EQ. But without the EQ, it was still too mid-focused for my taste. So first what I did is I tried to set up these knobs to my taste, that it's maybe scooped. And then I reduced the bias, which is also helping to scoop the sound a little bit. And also you want to have the mid-focus tone. If you crank the bias here, you have this power tube saturation, which is something which usually this sound doesn't have. These kind of high saturated guitar tones, the saturation is coming mostly from the preamp section. So here I would rather reduce the bias. And then you can raise the level a little bit. As a cap, I was choosing the Marshall 960, as you can see, and here's the SM57 in this position. And I was showing you in a video how my approach to create these things. So first I would start with the amp and with the drive block. Please check out my video about that. And as you can see here, if you just place it here, without the EQ, it's still too mid-focused. Also here I don't use a low and a high cut. Anyway, so let's go back to the initial patch. And the EQ is very important. So this is a thing which is creating the final or doing the final scoop. And as I said, it has lots of these 4 or 5K presence frequencies, which comes maybe from the dual rectifier. And I tried to add that by raising these frequencies here. Unfortunately, this is a shelf EQ, so couldn't just... usually I would have boosted only the 4 and 5Ks, but it's okay. And I also boosted the lows here, because the tone I was hearing had more lows, and I was here playing around with that setting. So you can try to maybe play around with that with the mouse wheel. last but not least, I'm using a little bit of room reverb, which is maybe something which you can hear on the recording. Not that dominant, but it adds a little bit, or it takes a little bit of the, that it's not so in your face, this. And if you're using real amps, you always get a little bit of room reflection, I think. So that is basically the rhythm tone which I try to create. And to me it sounds quite nice here. My studio monitors, of course, in a live situation I would choose totally different settings. It would not work, it's way too scooped. So in a live situation you will get lost with that tone. I'm sure RAMMSTEIN, they are EQing their amps totally different when they are playing live. And of course what you can do as a starting point is you can apply a high cut. To come closer to a more mid-focus sound, live tone. I'd also reduce the scoop a little bit when playing live. Maybe more like that. Doesn't sound like RAMMSTEIN's recording now, but in a live situation it would be much better. Maybe we can save this patch. Let's see. EK RAM live. So. And Leo Gibson live solo. Oh, that is flubby. Anyway, back to topic. I was also creating a RAMMSTEIN tone with the third-party IR here, the Owen Hammer Mesa V30. But I ended up using the stock IR here. Mainly because it has these 4 or 5K frequencies. And I got two other scenes. One scene is one where I'm just using a chorus. I don't know if RAMMSTEIN is using this kind of chorus, but I left it in there. Oops. And scene number 3 is the clean scene. Again, this is of course in E standard tuning. In the clean scene, as you can see, I don't do anything as usual, except I'm using the EQ. I have only this EQ setting here, but that is maybe similar to what I would use with my clean tone anyway. At least as far as the highs are concerned. And what they use, I think, is this detune effect. You can use this detuning here, everything at max. Sorry. and it's working nice, I think. And I think I forgot to max this. Oh shit. So let's store it again. And that's basically it. So yeah, I was not comparing the sound side by side to different recordings because, as I said, they use different sounds on each album, but this sounds to me like, or it has the characteristics which the RAMMSTEIN guitar tone has, for me at least. These very scooped, saturated guitar tone, very tight, but yeah, you have these high-end 4 or 5 cases, which you get always from an SM57. The SM57 is basically has these bump where it's boosting these frequencies, and also the low end, it's taking out some mids. And that is the case why it's working in so many situations. It doesn't have annoying mid frequencies which you don't want. Of course you can add them afterwards, or have to cut the highs a little bit if you're using the SM57 in some situations. Here you can move it around, and also get much closer to a live situation if you move it away from the cone. And here it has too much highs, and then here in this position I would reduce this. So yeah, one thing which I would like to point out is if you're playing these high distorted riffs, you don't want to have additional fretboard noise. So I'd rather set my string action a little bit higher, so that you don't have these fretboard noise if you're fretting the note a little bit too hard sometimes. And yeah, you should take care of these things. It's very important for these kind of rhythm playing. I saw people having the string action way too low, and then you got always unwanted fretboard noise, which is it's blowing the whole guitar tone in that high gain situation. What you can also do is you can use an additional gain stage, another pedal maybe, but then I would have to sacrifice this block, I think, and I got enough saturation for my taste with one pedal. So yeah, that was my attempt to get kind of a RAMMSTEIN tone. I hope this helps you, and if so, please subscribe to my channel. Goodbye.